with these two things. I want to talk briefly about video games because someone made a very good point that for girls, or for certain people, not just girls, but for certain people, what they do is they might focus on social media. Other people might focus more on video games. And so I want to talk about video games, and I also want to talk about Snapchat and so on and so forth. Now, there are certain tools, again, that in and of themselves, they're not bad. I'm not as familiar with Snapchat, but I do know that there are certain apps, and maybe this is one of them, where you can text things and they can be deleted after a period of time. Why it's that way, I don't know, and that's not the main point. The first fundamental point, though, is to remember that we were created and designed. That means we should ask, how am I supposed to live? How now should I live? Because God made us, so we should ask, how now should I live? And actually, this is important. Even when we read our Bible, sometimes people are reading their Bible in the perspective of, these are just suggestions. They don't read it in the perspective of, these are the words of the one who gives life, and I need to take them seriously. They're not just suggestions. I need them to live a life that makes sense. And so, that's number one, is that we need to keep that perspective. We were created. With that said, we should never use things in a way that will dishonor the one that created us. And so what does that mean partly? That means that if I'm going to message you something, it has to be something that is built on love and something that is built, of course, around truth. In the sense that you talk about bullying, you talk about these things that happen online. Some of that happens because people forget that they have a primary assignment from their creator before they have an assignment to anybody else. And their creator says to love. And if we're going to love our neighbors as ourselves, we will not post things and say things to people that will crush them. But we see a lot of that happening. So now, as far as different social media platforms that evaporate so quickly, for me, I just wrestle with the fact that we have, can some of these tools be used for good? They could be used for good, or they can be used for good. But we have to recognize, again, that we have to live with eternity in view. So what I say needs to be something that can stay around for a long time. So I should be careful not to say things just because I think they can be deleted quickly that might hurt or offend somebody else. Again, anything I do, if it's not out of love, is a problem. That might not be the case for some people who use Snapchat and social media, but we just have to be careful how we use it. We also have to be careful that it doesn't eat up our time because we were created for a purpose. So we need to make time to live lives of purpose. But let me end with video games quickly. So with video games, growing up in Nigeria, we had Super Nintendo. That was very popular back then. And some of us did very good at some of the games. We didn't have constant electricity where I lived, but some people would play these games and we would play these games. And what I've realized though is there's a different world from 1999 to 2018, especially of course the complexity that has come with the games. We had certain limits that were imposed. But the problem I'm seeing nowadays is some people don't have limits. Now, there are certain games that just don't belong in anybody's life. And I'm not going to list all the games. But you know what I mean. Games that do not help us seek to become more and more like Christ. However, there is the problem where you might be playing something that seems harmless, but it's because of the amount of time you're investing in it. You're almost living in an alternative reality, rather than the reality that you're in now. And so this is a challenge and an encouragement to people who might play a lot of video games to realize we need to start living in this reality. Video games can actually affect our motivation. Video games can affect how we live our lives after we leave the video games. So we want to make sure that we do not allow those things hinder us from becoming like Daniels and Josephs and people who are seeking excellence wherever God put them. So I want to encourage us to think about this. I want us to encourage others who might have video game, there's even video game addiction. The World Health Organization has something called the video game health addiction. It's an addiction, a problem. And so I want to encourage us to encourage other people to break free from that and to focus their time on reading more, on serving people more. One of the projects we're going to do at Adullam involves going to a nursing home or an assisted living facility and seeing how can we help on a regular basis. Because my life does not need to be consumed with me. I need to be thinking, how can I be a blessing to others? So let's find more opportunities, like visiting nursing homes or places where people need help. And let us avail ourselves and use the strength that God has given us to be a blessing to other people. So, my friends, today is the day to really reevaluate. Where do I need to change things so I can be more effective in the kingdom of God, so I can be a vessel unto honor? Thank you for your time, and have a good day.